and welcome to the very first episode of Let's Talk Rangers, the podcast. We are genuinely buzzing to finally get this up and running. We really appreciate you choosing to spend some of your time with us today. I'm one of the co-hosts, Kyle McLean, and I'll be joined every week by fellow co-host Ross Chalmers. Just a quick bit about what this podcast is all about. At its core, it's just two pals sitting down every week to talk about the club we love. Nothing fancy, nothing overproduced, just honest Rangers chat. We'll plan on going, dropping the podcast to you every Monday, where we'll dig into the weekend's game, what worked, what didn't work, what impressed, which is not... Well, I suppose today we'll have something positive to talk about, but it's more what frustrated us and everything in between. If there's a midweek match, we'll try and catch up on that as well. We'll talk about some of the chances that Rangers created, some of the chances that they somehow managed to miss, and hopefully some that they managed to put away as well. We'll also be keeping an eye on all the transfer news as it breaks. It's only the start of the December, but there's already names being linked, so we're expecting that to heat up pretty quickly when it comes. But when it does come, we'll be on it. But the biggest thing for us is getting you guys involved. So many of you already have been unbelievably supportive, encouraging us about starting this podcast. And genuinely, honestly, it means a lot. If you're watching this, you know who you are. So thank you from both Ross and I. Thank you so much. As we go forward, we want it to feel like a community. If you've got topics you want us to cover, any questions you want answered, or even just throw in your own opinions, leave a comment and we'll get to it in future episodes. The more voices, the better. Ross, is there anything you want to add to that?
I'm glad that you took the ownership of that intro, Kyle, because I could never have delivered it as well as that. So fair play. You know, I agree with everything you've said. This has been a long time coming for us. We wanted to get back into the podcast game. We wanted to do something we're passionate about. We found the passion for this a couple of years ago. Feels great to be back. I just want to echo what you said there when we put that promotional post out last week to say that we were going to do this. The feedback and reaction to it was unbelievable, to be honest with you. I was blown away with how nice people were about it, how supportive people were, and that there's a lot of really good Rangers podcasts out there. And it was great to see so many people get involved and wish us all the best and you know, try to point people our way. So yeah, just want to echo what you said there as well. We're really grateful for that support, and yeah, we're really excited to be here.
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, just thank you so much to everybody for getting involved. But listen, let's give the people what they want and let's get into it. And probably the first time we'll use this line, and it's Let's Talk Rangers, Ross. So yesterday,
it's a full
Rangers
circle moment, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a full circle moment. That makes the name of the podcast all worth it now, doesn't it? Yeah.
Listen, I know, I totally agree. But listen, Rangers played away at Rugby Park in the weekend's game. I was actually thinking, you know, obviously you and I once went and ventured to an away game at Rugby Park where Rangers were also wearing the orange kits, but it was a very different feeling going into that game. I think Morelos and Defoe scored in that game, if I'm right in remembering it. We were a lot more positive in terms of going to the ground, you know, a lot more confidence in the team. I don't know if it's just because of what had happened the week before and the previous two results at Dundee United. But what was your overall thoughts and just your initial reaction to the Kilmarnock game, Ross?
Yeah, I think it was a better performance last night. I think there's still a lot to work on for Danny Rohl in this Rangers squad. I don't think anyone thinks any differently to that. I think we've seen a lot better individual performances. I think from the back, Emmanuel Fernandez is looking better every week. Connor Barron in midfield done well. And I think the big one we'll probably come on to is Bojan Miovski up front. I think we've waited for that moment. I think we put out last night that he's maybe been waiting for that kind of confidence booster. And I think he got that last night in his first goal, because I think you've seen a much better performance from him all round after that. But yeah, overall, I think there's still a lot to work on for Rangers. I don't think with the finished package, we're nowhere near it. I think Kilmarnock did look threatening at times, and I think defensively there still are some problems there. But I do think the last couple of games we've looked better going forward. Looks like players have started to find a wee bit more confidence again, playing with a little bit more freedom as well. And I thought we'll probably come on to this as well. I thought the shape was quite interesting last night, playing with the kind of three midfielders, still leaving Bayrami on that left side. I know he goes off early. But yeah, I think as the weeks go on, I think I'm getting more confidence behind this manager. I think we can leave it all behind. I don't think he was anyone's first choice, but he's came in, he's got a good return to begin with, and going away to Rugby Park and winning 3-0 is never easy, Kale. I mean, our record there in the last few years is pretty poor. I think actually in the Sky coverage last night, it was Rangers have lost 6 out of the last 11 at Rugby Park. That is a really poor record. So I think if you go there, you win pretty comfortably in the end. 3 really good finishes, which I'm sure we'll come on to, especially that last one with Mikey Moore, brilliant. I think you've just got to take the positives out of it. I know it's not been a great season so far, but I think that's a really, really good result. And it was important this weekend because of the games around us and, the top 2 teams. Someone was going to drop points somewhere. So I think that was a big moment for us last night and we took it. So I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As you said, it's the thing that we weren't getting under Russell Martin was an improvement. It's the thing that a lot of supporters have talked about, especially under the Gerrard era. You could see incremental improvements game by game by game. You can almost sort of see this with Danny Rohl. I think he hadn't quite got the defence sorted out, hadn't quite got the attack sorted out. And maybe yesterday, that was one of the first games that we've maybe seen those 2 things knitting together, actually coming to fruition. A point I want to ask you, because I know we talked about it before the game kicked off in terms of the lineup. What did you make of that change that Rohl did? And he does this in every game. He seems to have individual adaptations to suit the opposition that we are playing. I wasn't expecting to see Barron, Diomande and Raskin all starting yesterday. I think we even had that chat. I think I said to you, is Diomande maybe being pushed slightly further forward into almost that 10 role, but having that midfield base, is that what helped knit the defence and the attack together yesterday, did you feel?
I think so. I think he made a couple of interesting changes. I think the Max Aarons on the right-hand side for Tavernier. I know James Tavernier was struggling with wellness this week, but I thought that made a big difference as well. I don't think Max Aarons individually was brilliant. I think there's still more to come from him, but what you've got in a wing-back like Max Aarons is he can stretch it on the right-hand side. And I think that just gave us a little bit more space at times. The interesting one, which you touched on already, was Mohamed Diomande. And I think this is why so many Rangers fans get so frustrated with Mohamed Diomande, because the talent's there. I think he's very similar to Taylor Asgard in that, right? These are 2 good footballers. You know the individual talent is there, but they don't show it enough. And I think last night what maybe Danny Rohl's looked at is when I'm going to maybe leave a Barron as a designated sitter. I'm going to let Raskin maybe go forward, but a lot of the time he's going to play a little bit safer and tighter to Barron. And I'm going to give Mohamed Diomande the license to go forward. And he kept making those runs into the left-hand side. Bayrami was drifting inside. And Rangers were getting a lot of joy from it. And I think it's something we posted on the account in the first half. If Rangers were a little bit tidier on the break last night, they would have killed Kelly off early because they had lots of opportunities to break and it just wasn't slick enough. So overall, I think this is what I really like about Danny Rohl from game to game. He's kind of assessing every opponent and he's making slight tweaks and he's using his squad. I know there's individuals in there that people are frustrated about. The likes of Finlay Curtis, even though we've seen him come on last night. Lyle Cameron's maybe not getting a kick, but he is using the majority of his squad and he's tinkering things when he needs to. And interestingly, he spoke about Bojan Miovski last night in the post-match press conference and he was talking about the difference in the role he had as well. And he's asking more of him to take up different spaces. So, yeah, I think he made a subtle change last night. I think he's looking at Connor Barron as maybe not the most technically gifted midfielder, but he's someone that gives you solidity in the middle of the park. And he's someone you can rely on to cover the ground. I think that's a big thing with Connor Barron. He's willing to cover the ground. He's willing to give the midfielders next to him the kind of license to play. And I think he's looking at that and going, I can really make use of that and give the bodies in front a lot more freedom. And I think we made the most of that last night. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. It wasn't perfect. Kilmarnock are a side that are maybe struggling this season, but they always make it difficult at Rugby Park. And I think you've seen that last night. It wasn't an easy game. But I think the subtle tweaks from the manager, I think really helped us. And I think in the end, we definitely deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there in terms of I think the small things that he did in terms of tweaking the structures you said having. I mean, that's what you want from your right back. Max Aarons is a guy that I was not even planning on talking about this podcast, but you want your fullbacks to be giving you that 7 out of 10 every week, just a solid performance that the rest of the team can then build up on. Did he give any, defense splitting passes? No, not quite. But he gave that base for us to go, and like I said, it's all these wee things that just help with the control. And the thing about yesterday, the big thing for me yesterday, the big takeaway is that I felt in the big moments our decision making was better in terms of Miovski, where he's putting the ball, in terms of his finishing. I'll go Mikey Moore as well was too. And the other moment in that is, I know we might come on to it, but the Jack Butland tackle that he made, um, it, we saw the result of him not making that challenge earlier on in the season in terms of being hesitant. So I certainly think the decision making's there. But listen, I think this is the part where we want to talk about some of the individual performances. You've already talked about a couple of them. He was given the man of the match on Sky Sports yesterday. It was Bojan Miovski. I thought, to me, that is the Bojan Miovski that I thought that Rangers were going to get. I was delighted when we signed this guy in the season, if not purely only to wind up the Aberdeen fans, I know. But especially that first goal, that's the type of goal that I expected Bojan Miovski to be scoring in this Rangers team, Ross.
Yeah, the majority of the time here, I'm going to try and be really positive about Bojan Miovski because I thought he was really good last night. He's probably one of the players in the squad I've been the most disappointed with this season. That doesn't necessarily mean he's been one of the worst, but because of the record he had at Aberdeen, I looked at a guy like that and going, okay, what they've done from a recruitment perspective is they've looked at someone that's been here before, scored plenty of goals, and someone you could rely on week in, week out. And they've looked at the likes of a Yusuf Chibiti as someone that's going to come in and out. Now, again, the fee doesn't reflect that. Let's take the fee out of it. But if you take the experience level of the two players, that looks like what Rangers were going for. And overall, I've been really disappointed. And I think we spoke about it actually at the game a couple of weeks ago. And it's something he actually mentioned himself last night. He's been just trying to find minutes because he's not played a lot of football. Like I said this to you at Ibrox, he looks like a guy that hasn't kicked a ball for a long time. And he just looked rusty. So I think for him to get that last night, I referenced it earlier, it's a confidence booster, right? It's a big confidence booster. And I now want him to see him kick on. I thought the two finishes were brilliant. I mean, he's in the box last night. It's crowded. It was a patient build up from Rangers. But all you want from your striker in that moment is to be clinical, right? And hit the corner. And that's what he does. And I always think with a striker as well, that's the kind of, those are the moments I think I would be taking shots because it's a box with crowded bodies. And you know, if you can get the ball through, the keeper's he's not going to have a good sight of the ball. And there's a good chance it's going to go in the back of the net. The second one is brilliant as well because a brilliant pass from Nicholas Raskin comes across him, he cuts inside, and I think we all think he's going to try and whip that far corner. And I think the goalkeeper is set for it. And the way he reverses it, the Kilmarnock goalkeeper has absolutely no chance. So really, really happy for him last night. I think he deserved man of the match. I still think there's a lot more to come from Bojan Miovski, but I think this is great for him. He can use this. He can now go and build on it. And he's someone, if we're honest, Bojan Miovski should be scoring 15 to 20 goals in the league for Rangers. That is what he should be putting up every single year. So I'm hoping he can get as close to that as possible before the end of the year. And I'm delighted for him. I think he deserved that.
Yeah, again, agree with what you're saying there. My only thing is that, Bojan Miovski didn't get enough playing minutes at Girona this season before, but for me, yesterday that felt like one of the first games that Rangers actually played to his strengths. He is a striker that excels in just sitting just behind off the last line and just sitting in that wee bit of space that he's got there. Some of the deliveries, the passes, I mean, like watching that first goal back, the build-up play is almost painful to watch because it goes from one side of the 6-yard box and it takes about 10 minutes for it to get to the other side of the 18-yard box where it eventually finds in. But that's the type of Diomande eventually offloads the ball to Miovski. Do you think that's obviously that's the plan if a Rangers team is to get the ball to the strikers? But we seem to just play to his strengths a bit more yesterday.
Yeah, I think where Miovski got the majority of his goals. I think it's and I'm not saying you were saying this by the way, but I think it's a myth that all of Miovski's goals for Aberdeen came when there was space in behind and he was running it at the channels and things. That's not true. There's a catalogue of goals where Miovski is in and around the 6-yard box for tap-ins and things like that, right? That's the kind of striker he is as well. But yeah, I think maybe Danny Rohl's recognised you're not going to get the most of Miovski if you're asking him to drop into space all the time. I think we definitely asked him to do it less last night. And I think that was maybe the idea of Diomande constantly making forward runs because he's going to occupy that space in front of the defence. And I'm quite glad about that, to be honest. I would rather Miovski goes back to that kind of classic number 9 that plays on the shoulder because I just don't think his hold-up play is good enough. And it is something that a lot of people did have concerns about in the summer, about Rangers making this type of move. And it's something that plenty of people have said on social media. Just because a player plays well in the SPFL, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate when they move to the Old Firm. And it is true. I think I just maybe expected a little bit more from him in that area. But look, the whole purpose of a manager or a head coach is to get the best out of their players. And I think there's several in that squad now that you can pinpoint and say Danny Rohl is starting to get the best of them and he's starting to improve them. And it looks like Miovski is one of those. I still want his touch to be a little bit better. But if you can get him in around the box, you can get him running off the shoulder. If you can get him running in his space as well, that's where he excels. So, look, this is the start, hopefully, for Miovski. I want him to kick on from this. I'm hoping they can pick up goals week in, week out now. But yeah, I agree with you, Kel. I think we're certainly starting to use him in a better way. And that's better for Rangers.
Listen, he can have a touch like an elephant as far as I'm concerned. See if he scores 2 goals every week, I'll be absolutely delighted. But listen, again, in terms of talking about, again, we touched on this guy before, another ex-Don who's doing, well, I was going to say, this one is doing well for Rangers as well at the minute, and it's Connor Barron. I thought he was so good in that midfield last night. Again, you're not getting anything fancy with him, but he's a grafter, gets stuck in. The two things for me that epitomised that performance yesterday was the goal line. I will call it a goal line clearance off of Bruce Anderson. How he was flagged for being offside at starting in his own half, I don't know. But anyway, we can come on to that. But just the drive, the desire to go back and chase that ball and ultimately stop a goal, because had that gone back to VAR, Anderson had beat Butland in one of the few times in that match. And the other thing was, it's just, he for me is so key in terms of the speed and the tempo at which we go forward. He's really good at getting the ball in the half turn and just moving it forward. What were your thoughts on Connor Barron last night and how he played against Kilmarnock?
Kel, this is a strange one for me because I always see a lot of criticism of Connor Barron on social media. And actually, a few people I spoke to are quite critical of him. I don't really understand it. I think he's a really good player at this level. See, SPFL level, I think we've signed a really good player in Connor Barron. Do I think he's going to kick on and be Rangers captain and an all-time leading appearance maker? No, I don't. But I think you've signed a good young Scottish player that can develop. And I think you're seeing that week in, week out. I think you are seeing him get better every time he pulls on a jersey. And actually, I think as a support, we always talk about wanting to sign kind of Scottish players, that kind of identity of Rangers. We've got one, right? We should be championing this boy. He's improving every single week. I've mentioned it before. He's not the most technically gifted midfielder. Who cares? He can still do a job, right? And he does it really, really well. Like you've referenced there, he's a grafter. He snuffs so many things out when people are on the break. And that's 2 away games now, the one at Rugby Park and the one at Easter Road, where he's been man of the match, deservedly man of the match. No one's been close to him. Maybe Miovski last night. But in my opinion, Barron was man of the match for me last night. I know Miovski gets to 2 goals. But yeah, I think he's getting better every week. And I always think you need that type of midfielder in your squad. You need the guy that's going to do the basics like I said, he's going to cover the ground. He's going to win it. He's going to play it off. And actually, something I think that's quite underrated with Connor Barron, I think his passing's really good. I actually think his passing's probably the best of the three, to be honest, out of Diamande and Raskin. I genuinely think his passing is right up there when it comes to our squad in midfield. Would I like to see more quality in there and someone better? Of course. But yeah, the criticism he gets sometimes, I don't really understand it personally. Is he going to have a good game every single week? Is anyone in the squad going to have a good game every single week? There's maybe going to be times you're going to see a dip, but I really like him. Kyle, I think he's a really smart bit of business from Rangers. They've picked him up from Aberdeen. I think it was around 600 grand in compensation. What can you ask? You know, he's playing week in, week out. Are we going to need more quality around him to get to where we want to get to? Absolutely. But I don't think he's doing himself any harm right now in the squad. And like I referenced earlier in the podcast, I think Danny Rohl really likes him because he's someone you can rely on, right? You can throw him in there. He's going to do exactly what you're asking. And he's going to pick up space what others have left. And you need that in every football team. So, yeah, I don't think I can make it clearer here, Kyle. I think the criticism of Connor Barron at times is really harsh. I think we have a really good player there. And I think he's someone that, I was going to say we should be proud. Maybe that's a bit far, but you want young Scottish boys in and around the squad. You want that. That's the identity you want. And we've got one there. So, yeah, we should get behind him as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point because the amount of supporters you hear, especially in the stands, going, we need a Scottish core, we need a Scottish core. And the two players that are getting pointed to at the minute are Curtis and Cameron. But then you've got Connor Barron in there, who I think is, I mean, there is a strong argument that he's the best Scottish player that we have in that squad at the minute. I don't think it's actually an argument based off of the players that are there. But yeah, it's just a great bit of business. And ultimately, the manager likes him. And he is a guy that I could see Rohl wanting to keep around at the club, certainly for a couple of years, because that's what he's. I mean, how many times have we heard Rohl saying that in pre-match, post-match press conferences that he wants players now that understand what it plays to play for Rangers? And since Rohl has been the manager of Rangers Football Club, I think Connor Barron has been that guy who has been putting the performances in that you need to give everything in the tank every game.
Look, just one thing on that before we move on, Kyle. The Serie A interest in Connor Barron, we had the same in the summer. We had the Serie A interest when he signed for Rangers last summer, the previous window. Yeah, teams in Serie A are coming to Scotland. They're not picking up any player. They're picking up what they believe are the best kind of young Scottish talent. It was believed that Bologna were looking at him in the summer window and were interested and were willing to make a bid. You know, clearly there's teams out there that value Connor Barron. He's in amongst the Scotland squad as well. Scotland have a very, very strong midfield. It's going to be difficult to break in there. But the ability's there, right? The talent's there. And I think he can only get better. And that's what you want. I think we spoke about this before. You need to find the balance between developing football players and having kind of experienced, ready to go professional footballers on your side. But Connor Barron's one that I think we should always get behind because he's young and he's Scottish and he wants to be here, right? He probably had plenty of other options when he was leaving Aberdeen and he wanted to come and sign for Rangers. That's what we want. We want young Scottish boys to come here and give their all and have an understanding of, they do have a better understanding of what is required at Rangers, and you need to fill your squad of these guys. So, yeah, we're in danger of spending the whole night talking about Connor Barron. I didn't expect that, but I think we've got a really good player there, and I think we can build on that going forward.
I did expect us to be talking about Connor Barron a lot, the way you've been banging on about him to me in the messages the past
it's too much, isn't it? It's too
couple of weeks. But listen, see, if Connor Barron does go to Bologna, I'll be delighted with that move, but let it happen in a couple of years. Will we get a couple of years out of him, and then we can go over. And by the way, it's a fantastic away. I was going to say away day trip. A fantastic European trip is Bologna. Food over there is incredible. But I was going to think of a seamless link here, but I was just another guy who's incredible as well. Let's just go for that, Ross. Right? Is
we've won one game at Rugby Park, and everyone's incredible.
I know.
Aren't we so lucky as well? I was just going to say, we're so lucky that we decided to start the podcast and launch the podcast this week. This is where I feel for a lot of other Rangers kind of podcasts out there and content creators out there, because they've got to analyse this whole season. It must have been the worst thing ever. You and I have jumped in at the end, really. We've get very fortunate that we actually can come on this and be dead positive about the team. How long that'll last, I'm not really. I'm not sure, so I'm going to enjoy it while it's here. But yeah, I found that funny last night when I was thinking about this. Launching this podcast. We've been very fortunate.
Oh, listen, the bubble will be burst at some point. I'm not sure entirely when, but as you said, I'm just riding this wave of positive. I mean, because that was the thing about yesterday, though. I genuinely wasn't expecting much from that game based off of what had been done before. But you saw it, a bit of confidence, you get a goal, and some of those players looked better. You can see it with a bit of time. Rule is making them better players. Again, this guy that we're about to talk about here highlights that for me, and that is Mikey Moore. What the hell Russell Martin was doing, playing him in a wide role when he is clearly very comfortable and so much better just sitting behind a forward, almost in that kind of 10 role. I might say the word false nine, but I'll judge by your face. You're definitely not false nine then. So we'll go
too much football manager, mate. Too much football manager.
We'll stick with 10 then for that one. But he's just, that is the player that I fully expected that Rangers would be getting him when we signed him on loan for Tottenham. All those sort of Europa League highlights that you saw him playing in last year against the sort of lower level opposition, it was just these big sort of marauding runs. And I love see the way he took his first goal, especially with his back to goal on the half turn, and just was. Mikey Moore can do something that a lot of Rangers players in the squad can't do at the minute, and that is run at a man and take them on. And I loved that goal that he scored yesterday. How have you felt that he's been, especially under Danny Rohl, Ross?
Yeah, I think Danny Rohl deserves a lot of credit for the upturn in form. I think you're totally right. I think Russell Martin was just not using the boy correctly, and actually, looking back now, that must have been a really difficult period for him. I think he signed when he was only 17. I think he turned 18 not long after he'd signed, and the Ibrox environment was tough for him to begin with. I think a lot of the Ibrox support were going, "This boy's no got it." And again, it's that it's that way that fans get quickly in the Rangers support, where why are we playing this boy? He's not one of our own. We should be giving the likes of Finlay Curtis the game. And that kind of gets even more exaggerated because you've got a player there that's not performing at all. So it must have been really difficult for him. I think you've heard him talk about it in interviews he's done the last couple of weeks, where he said, he took a bit of time to adjust, but he's kind of worked things out now, and he understands, the club he's playing for, the expectations. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal in recent weeks. I know he picked up that injury at a really bad time. You referenced the goal last night. Got to remember, he's only 18. Right. And I think you can see why Spurs and English football in general rate this boy so highly, because what he's done last night is not easy. Like anyone that's played football, it looks like a really simple bit of skill where he positions his body, he holds the boy off and he rolls him. That's not easy to do. Like it looks simple, but if you've got someone pressing you and you need to shield that ball in a way that you can turn out with it and drive, that genuinely takes a kind of high level of technical ability. Once he's away, I think he's going to get a shot off. It's just whether he's got enough to find the corner. And yeah, his running power is really good. Gets out of his feet. It's a brilliant finish. It's that kind of goal where you get off your seat, you're going nuts, because he's taken it from close to the halfway line. He's drove past so many players and he's stuck it in the bottom corner. He makes it look really easy, and it's far from it. So really happy for the boy. It's not easy coming up here as an 18-year-old, and everyone is looking at you and going, well, if you're 18, you're in Spurs Academy, you're playing for the England under 18s or whatever it is, and you're scoring hat-tricks every single week, you should be coming up here and walking it. And we know fine well, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. You've got to earn it. So I think you're now, like I said, you're starting to see the real ability there. It was the same with the goal he scored away at Dundee a couple of weeks ago, where he plays a nice little 1-2 in midfield. He anticipates the kind of ball breaking and he finishes in the bottom corner. The ability's there, right? I'm pretty sure when Mikey Moore leaves here, he will kick on and go to a much higher level. You can see it in his game. So I think a lot of credit goes to Mikey Moore, but I think a lot of credit goes to Danny Rohl, because maybe as a manager coming into an environment like Rangers at the moment where the team is really struggling, you're maybe going to look at the kind of older heads in the squad and go, I'm going to pack this team with as much experience as possible and hope I can ride things out until I get to the January window. Actually, he's looked at Mikey Moore and went, you're one of the best players here, and I'm going to get the best out of you. And I think he knew that straight away when he came in, because you've just seen the upturn in form instantly. So the boys definitely get talent. I don't think he'll be here after this season because of that. I think Spurs will look to try and get him to a top 5 league next year. So yeah, enjoy him while he's here. That famous quote of, don't fall in love with a lone player. I think that's there again.
Too late.
Well, there you go. I think most people are saying the same thing. But yeah, I think he's been brilliant. I actually think there's more to come as well, which is a really kind of exciting proposition.
Yeah, I agree. It's putting it into context. You said he was 17 when he left Spurs to come up on loan to us. Probably his first time outside of London for a prolonged period of time. I think I've read somewhere as well that up until that point he was staying with his mum and dad, so it'll be the first time he'll have been away from his mum and dad as well. So to come into this environment, I mean, he's been chucked straight into the frying pan. But yeah, you have to give credit to Rohl in this, that he's now shock horror, and something that I'm sure we won't be the first time we'll say in this podcast. Play players in their correct positions and you will probably get the best out of them. But just, on a personal note, it was so nice to, especially watching it after the game and some of the clips from fans in the stand and all that, Mikey Moore genuinely looked touched that his name was being sung out by the Rangers fans. And that should be a lesson to a lot of the players. I mean, he was only on the pitch for 15, 20 minutes last night. He gave everything, scored a great goal, should have had a second really good goal. I don't see how that's you can rule that off for a foul on Fernandez before it. But yeah, it's just great. And I think I said to you as an aside, in the second goal, or the second goal that was ruled off, Chermiti is in that 6-yard box, completely open, and he opts not to find him. Make of that what you will. But last player I want to talk about, because he's done really well. Last night in particular, the games before, against Dundee United, I don't think he covered himself in glory, but it's Manny Fernandez. It just seems to be a bit of an enigma, Ross, to me. I really think there's a player in there. Look at that run yesterday for the second or the disallowed Mikey Moore goal. That's something I didn't actually think he had in his game. For a big guy, that was a hell of a step over that he had before he went on that run. But yesterday, I thought his positioning was a lot better. I thought there is a couple of instances. He is clearly a guy that's going to suit playing with a more experienced defender next to him. But he's another one. He is showing improvement, and he seems to be getting better as the game's going under Danny Rohl.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought my heart nearly stopped last night when he done that drag back in the edge of the box. I think, what was that? Was it 5 minutes in or something like that, 10 minutes in? But again, a really good sign that he's starting to find more confidence. The big thing that a lot of the Peterborough fans said in the summer when we were signing him, obviously they were being honest and thinking that's an inflated fee for what you're getting. And that's fine, that's their opinion. But what a lot of them were saying, the kind of balanced ones, where he's got all the kind of raw attributes that you would want in a centre-back, but he's not really put it all together yet. And I think you've seen that at times here. I think you've seen that, okay, you do look quite raw, but, the stature, what is he? He must be like 6'4", 6'5". He's massive. He's really physical. You've seen that last night, defending with physicality. He's willing to attack anything in the air, which is something we've actually not had in a long time as a Rangers centre-back, someone that can just get up and deal with things in the box. He's willing to do that. And the technical abilities there. There was one last night, I don't know if you remember, where Fernandez comes out with the ball and Diomande makes that run in behind and he just clips it over the top to Diomande. And actually,
fantastic pass.
Yeah. And if Diomande actually did, I think the commentator at the time was, I think he was criticising the Fernandez passes, saying there wasn't enough weight on it. Actually, I thought Diomande didn't bring it down probably, right? I think if he'd taken the touch of a head of him, he's driving into the box. But I think he's got that side as well. He's a modern centre-back, right? He's a ball-playing centre-back. You can see that. He's very comfortable. He's technically gifted, right? He's going to deal with the ball well enough. The other side, I think, is something that he's going to have to work on, but I think he is getting better every single week. I agree with you. There's definitely something there. The raw attributes are there. And I completely agree as well. It's the experience he needs now. When John Souttar comes back, I would imagine John Souttar is going to play on that right-hand side. I think I would be willing to make Manny Fernandez his partner until the end of the season, at least, until we find out what happens with John Souttar. because John Souttar is the most experienced centre-back we've got. He's not perfect. I think we're all aware of that. But I think you've got a player there with Emmanuel Fernandez. That's someone we can develop into a really good centre-back. So let's keep him going. Let's play him. Let's keep him on that side. And let's find him an experienced partner. Whether that is John Souttar when he comes back from injury or whether we go into the market in January, that's up to the club. But we have a good player there. So let's develop him. Let's kick on with him. And he deserves credit himself because he waited a long time for the opportunity. And other than that incident at Tannadice last week, where he's got to deal with it a lot better, we have to be honest. I think when he gets beat in the byline or the touchline, sorry, you've just got to take a booking, right? You just got to pull him back or whatever. You take the booking and you move on. That's a little bit of an experience. He'll learn that as he goes. Other than that, Kyle, I don't know if you agree. I just think he's done really, really well. He's not been amazing, but he looks more comfortable every single week. And I think for someone that's not played a lot of football, especially here, that's all you can ask for at this stage, and you hope he builds on it.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be playing alongside like a more experienced head and pick up all the good attribute, and I will stress the good attributes that John Souttar has. None of this ball watching when it's coming in. But again, you can say that again. Taylor Asgard's a guy that I think needs to watch Mikey Moore and genuinely see that spin that he did yesterday. That is this type of stuff that I expected Taylor Asgard to be doing for Rangers. So yeah, they all have to be in there and picking up good habits off of each other. But yeah, in terms of Fernandez, the criticism he got, even at the start when he came in, there was a lot, because remember you and I sat and watched that. Who was it we played in the pre-season against Middlesbrough, and we thought this guy looks okay, but he was getting absolutely panned by some sections of the Rangers support. And
was his partner though
sure
that day? It was Xander Hutton was his centre back partner that day, was it not? I mean, what chance have you got? You're playing with a B team right back that's never made a first team appearance, and he was getting. You're right, he was getting a lot of criticism that day. But then, if you remember, when the first team came on the last 20 minutes and Giga came on next to him, and at that point, by the way, I know everyone's going to be like, "What are you talking about, Giga?" Giga at that point was playing well, right? When he came on, he looked so much better. So, yeah, sorry to cut you off there. It was just to say that the raw attributes are definitely there. I can now see what the Peterborough fans were trying to say.
Yeah.
They were trying to say, this is definitely a risk based on the fee you've paid. But if it clicks, you've got a really good centre back there. And I think maybe where they are, I think they're bottom of League One at the moment, right? I think maybe where they are, they're like, if we're getting offered 2.5, 3 million for a player, we're going to take it, right? You can have him. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, it's there. I think we just have to be patient with him. And very much like the Clinton Inciala incident last year, he's going to make mistakes. He made a mistake at Dundee United. He's going to make mistakes. What I'm wanting in that moment when a player's developing is see the other experienced bodies in the squad. They pick up after him, right?
Yeah.
And you grab him, you go, it doesn't matter. Look, we've won the game. Forget about it. Move on. That's what you need. That's why you need a solid team and a real kind of core of experienced players in there that can take the burden sometimes off of these younger ones.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Couldn't agree more in terms of having somebody in there sort of helping them along. But it's just everybody's got to have a wee bit more patience with some of these guys, as you said. But there's definitely a player in there. I think as cliched as that sound, and I've never heard the words raw attributes mentioned. The last player I heard that mentioned that many times was Fashion Sakala. So. And that's a guy I think a few people would have back in the team. But listen, the next aspect that I want to come on and talk about here, Ross, and we've already maybe touched on wee bits of it as well, and it's Rohl's impact and progress with the squad. I think you chucked up a really good comparison point on the Twitter last night, and that is that Rohl now has 17 points from a possible 21. 5 wins and 2 draws. To put that into a bit of context, Russell Martin had 21 available points to him, and he got 8 out of that. 4 clean sheets as well, which has been really, really good to see. Something that I think Jack Butland had only managed 3 in more games up until that point as well. But for me, there's been clear improvements in our game management. And last night, like I said earlier, I felt that we picked to make the right decisions a lot of the time. The Butland one, again, I know there's an argument about what happened there in terms of the VAR and the refereeing, but the fact that he came out and dealt with that, he didn't do that earlier on in the season, and it cost us a goal. So yeah, what have you made so far of because I think that's enough games now to properly give an assessment into Rohl. We are aware of the lack of quality throughout that squad, but what have you made of him so far since he's come in, Ross?
I've been really impressed with him, Kyle, to be honest. I think it wasn't my first choice. I think we're all being honest that Danny Rohl wasn't our first choice when we were looking for a new manager a couple of months ago. But I think the record he's got so far, domestically anyway, Europe's maybe, I think we've said numerous times that this Rangers squad are just not good enough for the Europa League this year. I don't really think I can pin that on Danny Rohl. I mean, if you look at the Braga game, what can Danny Rohl do when Nasser Giga just has an absolute brain fart and he heads the ball backwards? You know, what can you do as a manager, right? And I think from that first game away at Brann, I think you have seen a gradual improvement there. It's never going to be enough. We're not going to qualify this year. But in domestic football, obviously we lost that semi-final against Celtic, which is a sore one. I think as an Old Firm manager, you want to try and get that win as quickly as possible. But in the league, it's been decent, maybe verging on good. I'm always wary sometimes because we know how this works in Glasgow and supporting Rangers. If you drop points, it's not a success here, right? It doesn't matter. The Falkirk one is the big one, I think, at home, where I think that's probably the worst I've seen Rangers this season, actually, and it is under Danny Rohl. But that can happen, and I think we're understanding this squad's just not good enough to have the kind of consistency required. But if you look at the kind of raw data on it, 17 out of 21 is a really good return. 4 clean sheets, because Rangers have been all over the place defensively. Unbeaten so far in the league. Again, that doesn't matter because Rangers have to win games, but it's something that he can use with the squad as evidence of what they are doing is working. And I think you listen to Danny Rohl in his press conferences and things, and I like what he says. I think he does have a better understanding of Rangers than previous, where he looks in and goes, even the one he said last week, we need guys that are either here or to come in that understand what it is to play for Rangers. I think some of the principles he's looked in place are a lot better. We're a much better team off the ball now. I still think we have to improve. I still think the pressing sometimes is a bit erratic, but we're a lot more aggressive, right? And we're at least looking to win it higher up the park. That wasn't the case under Russell Martin. So I think there's some things he's brought in, some kind of principles he lives by. What I've liked as well is he's quite ruthless. You know, so if he doesn't think someone's performing at the level, he just whips them off. I remember a couple of weeks ago, he whipped off Miovski at half-time at Ibrox. I can't actually remember the game, which was a bit of a surprise. We've not really seen that before, but you're number 9 when he goes, you're just not doing it, you're off. So I think there's a lot of encouraging signs. I think he's got a good record so far. This is now, as I said on the Twitter account last night, this is a really tough run now for Rangers in December. This is when you're really going to see Danny Rohl's kind of experience, his managerial experience come into it, because he's going to have to navigate a lot of tough games. I think it's Hibs next, Hearts, and then I think it's Motherwell away. Motherwell home, St Mirren away. It's a tough run. I can't remember. I might have got that wrong. So you're going to see this for Danny Rohl now. It's going to be a really tough run. But I think if you just look at the hard data there, Kyle, 17 out of 21 when your previous manager picked up a possible 8 from 21, it's all relative. None of us are sitting here going, 17 to 21, that's a great record for Rangers. It's not, right? If that's the points towards the end of the season, you're gonna be in trouble. If you're drawing games at home to the likes of Falkirk and things like that, you're not going to win things at the end of the season. But I think from where we were to where we are now, it's been a good start. And there's foundations there, isn't there, to build on? I think that's the best way to put it. There's something there as a manager you can kind of get behind and cling on to. That's what we've wanted as support for a long time. We've not felt that. We've not felt any connection with a manager. We've not felt, I can see what's going on in the pitch here. It's not perfect, but I can back this manager. There's something I can get behind. I think that is there now. I think there's some that are still to be convinced, and that's okay. Everyone gets there at their own time. But I think there's certainly a good manager there. I think it's someone we should get behind, because I think we can find some success with him in the future.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Jeez, oh man, I was not expecting this first pod to be as relatively positive as what it was. It just shows you what
get it all out, because it'll go quickly next week.
Well, that's exactly it. Listen, if it's making us feel confident and we're only talking about it, imagine what this must do for the players actually living, breathing, and experiencing the thing at the time. But yeah, that was the thing under the previous manager, is you could not see the direction that Rangers on the pitch were heading in. You were like, why are they doing that? Why do they keep repeating the same actions and just getting nothing from it? Why do they keep making the same bad decisions? You can clearly see that his management style is working in this squad. And that's the other thing you touched on is press conferences. I dare I say it, almost enjoy listening to what he has to say. He doesn't. You don't get that feeling that he's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. He's very straightforward. It's very factual. He's very German when he talks, isn't he? Just there's no bull, there's no messing about. He's just telling it as it is. But listen, I think that's just about wraps it up there for the first podcast, seeing as we're around about the 45 minutes. So I don't think that was too terrible for episode 1. I know we got the old WD-40 out at the start, but maybe a wee bit rusty in bits, but not as terrible as we thought it was going to be. So like the Rangers team, hopefully see small incremental improvements and better decision making every week. But just want to say to everybody watching and listening, thank you so much for sticking with us and giving this first episode a chance. Starting from afresh is always nerve-wracking, even though we do have a few pods under our belt. But so every view, every comment, every bit of support really, really does go a long, long, long way. So hopefully this is the first of many, and we'll build up something really enjoyable together with you guys over time. If you've got some thoughts on what we've discussed today, the game, the players, managers, anything, let us know in the comments. We'll read everything and we'll try and bring some of your views into future pods. But remember, just before you go, to like, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Share it with any Rangers fans that you think would enjoy it. And make sure you go and check out all our TikTok clips. We will post the sort of shorter bits, sort of the good bits from the podcast, really. And give us a wee follow on X as well. And if you like listening to us, but you don't want to look at us, you can find us on all good audio platforms as well. Anything you want to add in there, Ross, just before we wrap it up?
I think if I was everyone, I don't think they would want to look at us, to be honest. So if people just want to listen, that's absolutely fine. But no, yeah, you've covered it well. I think what we want this channel to be is a kind of community aspect. So we'll go through all the comments that people put, and we'll try to bring them into the pods, and we'll make it relevant. And the plan is in the future to do kind of live things and things on the channel, so people can get involved in all of that. So yeah, absolutely. Feedback is welcome. We understand that this is the first podcast, and it might not have been perfect, and people might have an opinion and things. That's fine. We're open to that. But yeah, thanks for everyone for watching, for listening. Really appreciate it. This is, like I said at the beginning, this is something we've wanted to get back into and something we're passionate about. So we really appreciate anyone that's came along and got involved.
Yeah, no, thank you again for everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.